So in this month, many of us, we participate in hundreds of webinars, online coaching sessions, boards, events, etc., etc., etc. And in this period, we accelerate the introduction of new technology habits. So today, some of you, you are in Mexico, you are in Germany, you are in France, in Peru, in Argentina, in Spain, whatever. And we are now connected. We are now exchanging knowledge, and we are moving forward, not stopping at all in our growth in our business, in our growth as persons. And the speed of these changes will not decrease. The speed we are alive in the change is the fastest ever, and it will be the slowest ever. Today is the slowest speed of change that will be alive. So I encourage you to think that you have to think in agility to take profit of these changes that will be confronted along the time. I don't know how many of these new habits will become part of us in the future. I have no idea. The thing is, as a businessman, we have no data about the future. And as a businessman, we have to continue getting profit of the opportunities that any change generate. A question to you all. How many of you, for example, 2 years ago, you were using Zoom? How many of you were using Skype? Why in so short period of time Zoom has become the leader? Why so many of these experiences we had in video conference with Skype now are moved to Zoom? So how many video conference or tools or habits from the past will survive this era? So trends and technology, allow me to share with you thoughts and experience about these topics. The most important thing of the title, interesting title, is sustaining a culture of innovation in a remote world. I want to be focused on these three topics. I want to be focused on culture, innovation, and the remote world. Three things. Culture, first topic, culture. Every group without experience, without willingness, they have always a culture. Culture is how we communicate. Culture is how we behave. Culture is how we act, is how we react. And nice examples, Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon. Neanderthal lived long time, longer than Cro-Magnon, but Cro-Magnon overtake Neanderthals. And three elements were very different between Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal. Cro-Magnon developed a language. Cro-Magnon has a language to interact each other. So they create community. And they create a confidence that in a community, we can split the task, the jobs to be done. You can go hunting and I will prepare things or repair things. We can develop tools because we communicate, we are in a community, and that means we can teach and learn. That was the biggest difference between Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal in culture perspective. So that is why we have a lot of discoveries all around Cro-Magnon, because they develop a lot of tools and new behaviors, settlements, etc. So we can have it. Okay. A culture is a big topic. From the business perspective, allow me to split in two different cultures. One culture is focused on data. One culture is focused on efficiency, on productivity. This on the bottom line, these cultures are highly efficient, but rarely they are innovates. Because data their cultures focuses on data, and innovation is always thinking on future, is thinking about new things to do things, new ways to do things. That is why if you are thinking on the future, unfortunately, we don't have any data. This culture based on data is not useful in uncertain worlds, in ambiguity. When we are surrounded by ambiguity, the logic based on data is unuseful. The alternative we have is when we don't have any data, is just experiment to create new data, analyze and learn, and go back to experiment again. That is the innovation. It's about creating new data. It's about creating new source of solutions. It's about discovering new worlds. That is when the environment is full of uncertainty. We don't have any data to support our decisions. And then we have to jump to this different logic. That is a different culture. And then culture is not good one and another one is bad. No, we need both because we need to discover future and then get efficiency and productivity from the discovering. Allow me to share with you a history based on these two guys. I am talking about these two guys. The cow in the middle is just a coincidence. These two guys are famous around the world because they are Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's, in 1978, Ben Cohen invited his friend Jerry Greenfield to set up a business. They decide to set up a business in the ice cream world. In fact, they decide in the ice cream world because the first idea was to set up the business around different matters, but machines and processes and the logics, they were too expensive. So they jump into ice cream because the startup point was the cheapest. But the most important and curious thing from Ben and Jerry's is where are they based? They are based, this line is the border with Canada. This state here is Vermont. Vermont around, so that you have an idea, so looks Vermont many, many months in a year. These two guys, they had fun and they love ice cream. So they set up a business of ice creams. They set up this business starting in a unused gas station. So could you imagine in a previous and a former gas station that you set up an ice cream, which is smell differently, taste differently, etc. Everything, the experience is different. So they set up the company, and still today, they were bought in 2000 by Unilever, and still today they maintain the friendship and the freshness of the starting point. That is the culture. When you and me, we set up a company, the culture of this company is your and my personality. So far, we are growing and hiring employees. We need damn processes. We need damn resources. We need damn bureaucracy. And that is what we define as the complex in the total culture. But Ben and Jerry's still have a curiosity. Ben and Jerry's, Ben and Jerry, they are absolutely sure that to have success, to be successful, you have to fail. And they define a graveyard. So to honor all the failures, to honor all the flavors that they not success. So they put in this graveyard all the flavors, and you can find there a lot of tombstones like this one, or these ones, or this one. But as you can see, some of these flavors along the time, they come back to the market, what they call rain connection. So White Russian was launched to the market, was killed because it was not successful, and now it's a big success. How it works that? It's quite simple. They say, Ben and Jerry say, okay, if we have to fail, let's have fun failing. And they create a process of failing, which is, okay, you go to the web page, a flavor graveyard, and you have a lot of flavors there. But you have here in the middle, as you can see, a button. You can click there, and then you can jump to a template where you can type in all the information, why you suggest that this or this flavor is alive, back to life. Imagine that you are getting from your customer 3,000, 5,000, whatever the number is, of opinions, suggestions, giving you detailed information, what to do to be successful. You are getting the magic recipe. That is how the culture of Ben & Jerry's structure the company to encourage people, the talent of people that any one of us we have, to explore new flavors or new services or new products. Okay. What is culture and how to obtain data from it? So if I jump in a company, I can analyze which resources do we have, which processes are they managing, how they measure success. So I can analyze all topics, and then I know exactly, I can copy and paste in my company, but it will not work because it's one part of the company's culture that we cannot copy. Company is composed by people, and that means the people has values, people has behaviors, so how they put into action these values, and that generates a climate, so how they celebrate things, etc., etc. So we can copy the left part of the brain, but we cannot copy the soft skills. So we have to decide which kind of culture we have. And the culture is composed by all 6 blocks. Which resources do you manage in your organization? Do you have to reach your targets? Which processes do you create to manage the resources? How do you measure success? Which values? How do you hire people? Which values has these people? Which behaviors can you observe? How the leaders are stimulating these behaviors? And finally, which is the climate you can inspire there? Okay, but culture we can measure. Jay Rao, Joe Weintraub, and myself, we developed along the time a model. The model is innoquation. Innoquation is a model to measure culture of innovation in front of innovation. So that you can see here all the 6 blocks. And of course, there are 9 elements for each block. A total of 54 detailed elements describe your culture. And of course, if you get data around these 54 elements, of course, you can see your bottlenecks and you can see where are you not struggling, where are your strengths. So speeding up and supporting and reinforcing your strengths and solving your bottlenecks, you stimulate a different culture. So you can fine-tune the culture. That is why a culture is so important. Peter Drucker mentioned long time ago that culture eats a strategy for breakfast. Allow me to add that culture eats anything, any change for breakfast. If you try to introduce total quality innovation, any change, culture will eat it if you don't manage, you don't know, you don't assess, and you don't fine-tune your culture properly. So you can decide to have a middle-aged culture, so hierarchical, vertical, where the king is everything. So here upstairs is the brain, and downstairs is the muscle. You decided. Or you can decide that, okay, I prefer to be like Lorenzo de Medici and Renaissance. And the Renaissance, the power people, the people who has the money, the power, decide which are the targets, but ask the people how to solve, how to reach these targets. Is your question if you say, I want the brain around me and you have the dollars, or how to act? The question is, today, we need the emotions of the people. We need the soft part of the people, because without emotion, innovation is impossible. And no innovation today is the death. You can decide if you want to create a culture where leaders are above the culture of the company, or you decide to be more like the right part. We don't know what will be Microsoft when Bill Gates is not anymore there, or Zuckerberg is not more leading Facebook, or could you imagine Tesla without Elon Musk? But on the right part, all these three companies are over 100 years. On the top, we have 3M. In the middle, we have Siemens. And the bottom, Procter & Gamble. Nobody of you, without watching Wikipedia, usually knows the founder's name, unless who are today's leaders. These three companies are still in the top 20 most innovative companies in the world. Your decision is, do you prefer to generate a culture that depends on you, or depends on the potential of the total talent? Antoine de Saint-Exupéry told that if you want to build a ship, don't drum the people to collect wood and don't assign them their tasks, but rather teach them to long to the endless immensity of the sea. If you say to the people what is to be done, what Clayton Christensen mentioned as job to be done, if you conduct the people saying what they have to do, you are using just the muscles. But if you inspire them with questions, maybe describing the problem or the needs to be solved, maybe they will come with new ways to solve it. And that is what we call innovation. That is culture. So, but culture is nothing without leaders. So a leader has to stimulate curiosity, has to stimulate imagination, has to stimulate creativity and experimentation. The main role of the leaders is to stimulate all these four things, because with these four things, you can manage the present and discover the future. But you have to give them time. We hope, we expect that the people act as heroes in the company, managing with the right hand the present and the left hand the future. That doesn't work that way. You have to combine both present and future, but you have to split the times in different moments, because the logics to apply are fully different. And be authentic. Authentic is coherent between what you think, what you say, what you do, and what you feel. If you are authentic, coherent, you have the charisma to stimulate others in a different way. Unfortunately, it's not yet translated to English. So if any of you want to have a special edition, it will be a pleasure to talk about other languages editions. Culture, finishing about culture. So culture of innovation is nothing else that leadership plus culture elevate to potential of authenticity. Authenticity, or make it exponential, or divide and decrease. What is innovation, which is the second major topic? So it's a lot of confusion about what is innovation. I encourage you to make a very quite simple exercise in your organization, in your teams. Take 10, 15 people in a room, in Zoom session, whatever, and please ask them that they write 3 words. They can write so many words as they want. They have to choose the 3 most important words that for them means innovation, inspiring, what innovations inspire for them. When you combine all the words the people wrote, you will discover that innovation is like many other main topics, buzzwords. We love innovation, but any of us, we are understanding different things about innovation. So the thing is, you have to stimulate innovation. You have to stimulate the innovation, but you have to align the concept of innovation. And one misunderstanding around innovation is that we are confused around what is an update, what is an improvement, and what is a real innovation. Novelty is not innovation. Have a more powerful camera in your device is not innovation. Okay, don't be confused. It's like in this crisis, in this pandemic, we confuse working remotely with digital transformation. No, we are using different tools, but we are not transforming anything. We are just adapting to the situation. Okay, I know many organizations that they use this time to transform the processes. That was a real transformation. In many cases, digital. But I know other companies that they just are using exactly the same bottlenecks, the same bureaucracy, but online. So please, innovation is a very important matter, and innovation is important to define it. What is innovation? Allow me to jump few years backwards. So some years in the past, in the previous big crisis we have. In 2008, it was the Lehman Brothers. Let's learn from the past. In the previous crisis, Lehman Brothers, it was a huge amount of money that suddenly disappeared. So we thought we have in the pocket several trillions, and we have some of them less. So we were not so rich as we thought. The thing is, in this crisis, suddenly the world stopped. Suddenly a lot of banking crises in many countries, and we have to reinvent a lot of things. But the world continues rotating. So people had the same needs, the same problems as the day before Lehman Brothers. So for example, the people need a hotel room, but they don't have the same money. How to act? There is where appears Airbnb. In 2008, in the middle of the crisis, appears Airbnb to solve the problem of where to overnight when I am traveling. Or appears, okay, where to put my data? I cannot afford, I cannot pay a server for me. So Dropbox initiate, consolidate the cloud storage model. But in 2009, 2010, and 2011, appears Uber, appears Bitcoin, appears WeWork, and appears Udacity. So several players, they change how we overnight, how we store the data, how we transact the, how we make transactions, money transactions, how we transport in the cities or intercities, how we distribute our people in offices, or how to share space to work, so to save money, and how to learn in a different way. So, but one curious thing, more than these big innovations were in the middle of crisis, one very curious thing is that any of them, they were the major players in the sector. So Airbnb was not invented by Marriott, or Dropbox by a computer manufacturer, or a Bitcoin was not by a bank, or Udacity not by a business school, or Uber by a transport organization, or WeWork was not defined, created by a World Trade Centers. So pay attention that in crisis, many things change, but big gorillas are very slow to detect the opportunities. Small monkeys detect faster. And today, some of these small monkeys are more valuable than the large gorillas from the past. So, or you are aware, paying attention about the changes, the trends, and the technology, or maybe you will suffer. In 2021, so in this year, we are still alive in changes. But for example, we can see that in this year, so a lot of sectors, as we can see here, are gaining quota of market share. Others are losing, of course, travel agencies, airlines, air manufacturers, hotels, a lot of industry. The tourism, for example, is highly impacted, but others are gaining. For example, new businesses are apparent or consolidating or growing incredibly fast. For example, last mile delivery is the largest growth in any industry in the last 50 years. What will be in the future? What will in 2022 and 23? I have no idea. But because I have no data, and based on that, I cannot analyze and I cannot generate any conclusion. So the only way is to interact. And there is where come remote world. We saw culture and how leadership is the biggest influencer in culture. And then we go to remote world. Remote world in March 2020, that was the circumstance. All humans around the world, we went through this book, these 5 steps. The thing is, when we have some information, we could jump one to other faster. But many people in the organizations, they have no data. No, they have no access. They were too fragile. And if they are too fragile, they get stressed. So that is why in this moment, in March 2020, some organizations focus on the short time, most of them in treasury, and it's fine. Treasury and survival was fine in the March 20th, 21, sorry, March, April. But later, we should jump to the right part, to the emotional. We cannot forget the people. Some other organizations I was helping, they focus on the emotional part, aspects of the people, and activating what we call CISE, which is the curiosity, the imagination, the creativity, and the experimentation. So to detect which are the changes that are happening outside the door, in the market, in the world, and detect all the problems and needs to convert it into opportunities. That is what we call interactive logic. Many organizations were combining both. And that helps a lot because they were maintaining alive the company, but they were incorporating new services and products, and today are leaders. So what could we learn from Netflix, or what could we learn from the last mile companies? What could we learn from the food industry or from the pharma industry? Sure, we can learn always from other industries and adapt to your market. So it's a lot of PhDs students, a lot of cases exist and analyze on books and literature that if you increase the emotion in positive of the people, you increase higher the productivity and the capacity. So when people, we feel safe today and safe tomorrow, we are more productive and we are more risk takers than when don't. So talent needs safety and space to add value, to create new things. So finishing about the remote world, culture. The key is to balance between both logics. They'll manage properly the emotions and to increase the efficiency in the resource consumption and the processes and success. So it's always a way in this direction, starting here, finishing here. And today, in the remote world, allow me to provoke a bit. We are all of us in one-click distance. We are in a one-click distance of our customers, of our suppliers, of our today's talent, and the future talent. So 2 years ago, if you want to hire me, you wish, and you are in a different city, country as I am, we should talk about how to move there. Today, we are in a one click. It's just a time zone matters. But that is the good news. You can access cheapest, fastest, and easily to new talent, new customers, new suppliers. That this rule is valid for you and also for your competitors. So the thing is, be agile and use these channels. That means that when the remote world is today's world, technology is the biggest player. So the most important employee in the company is technology right now, but not the sophisticated one. The simplest, the nicer. The thing is, technology is growing very fast. Don't be too complex. Be simple, applying, using today's technology. Recently, I was in the Mobile World Congress, and this is my friend Carlos Grau, the director, general manager of Mobile World Capital in Barcelona. And in this part, you can see he is interacting with the cameras here in the bottom. And this screen, this part is a 3D hologram. This part was 3 meters away from him, but it could be 3,000 kilometers away from him. So the future, for example, of keynoting will be very different in several months. For example, that is just an example. So in a remote world, technology is the biggest player. That means the remote is an obsolete concept. Remote is nothing as it was. Today we are linked by technology. Conclusions to share with you. 3. One is the world is on one-click distance. It's just a time zone question. Don't forget that today there are happening a lot of changes, and maybe in your sector appears an Airbnb that eats your cake and you lose your customers, or maybe you can eat the customers of your largest competitors. So if you are managing a small company, today is the moment to growth. If you are managing a large company, it's the moment to think small, to think big, but think as a small company, as you are in a startup. And decide, you as a leader, if you want to know your culture, and do you want to create a culture, stimulate a culture, thinking of the next 100 years, or a culture depending on you. That is your decision. But culture is everything. Culture is what is defining your outcome, your results, your profit, your loss, your present and your future. Thank you very much.